In our first story, President Akufo-Addo this morning performed his first public service as president when he commissioned the newly constructed Chancery building of the French Embassy here in Accra. Construction of the new facility, which started in 2017, replaces the already existing one next to the Jubilee House. There were security concerns after the Jubilee House was built next to the existing French Embassy under the Kufuor government, but after a series of negotiations, a new site at Cantonment was allocated to the French government. Commissioning the facility, President Akufo-Addo acknowledged Ghana's growing cordial and bilateral relations with France, attributing it to a shared vision and belief of both countries in democracy, human rights and rule of law.
Indeed, the people of Ghana are appreciative of the support extended to us by France in the sectors of agriculture, rural and urban development, local government administration, education, transport, water and sanitation, amongst other sectors. When the pandemic of COVID-19 struck, France was one of the countries which demonstrated solidarity with Ghana through the launch of the 1.2 billion euro Joint Health Initiative and the donation of RNA extraction kits to the Noguchi Memorial Institute, which has contributed significantly to the efficient testing regime rolled out by government. I'm hopeful that Ghana and France will continually search for ways to cooperate. I have no doubt that together our two countries can forge an even stronger partnership for cooperation for the mutual benefit of our two peoples. Ghana stands ready to renew and deepen her relations with France for the prosperity and progress of our two buildings. And the opening of La Chancerie Française d'Accra should be a spring in the step of our relations. Monsieur le Ministre, je vous prie de bien vouloir exprimer à son Excellence, Monsieur Emmanuel Macron, Président de la République française, mes meilleurs vœux à lui et au peuple français pour le nouvel an, et de lui assurer que si la pandémie permettra, je vais honorer l'aimable invitation qu'il m'a accordée pour participer à Paris dans le mois de mai.
That was President Akufo-Addo, of course, showing his prowess in the French language as he spoke at the inauguration of the Chancery of the French Embassy here in Ghana. There's a lot more coming up here in the bulletin. We'll hear from Carlos Ahinkra, who's a member of Parliament for Tema West. Of course, Carlos Ahinkra has become a bit infamous since he snatched some ballot papers at Parliament House during the election of the Speaker of Parliament. Now, he says he snatched the ballot papers for the election of Speaker of Parliament yesterday to instigate a rerun of the ongoing election, which puts the opposition in the lead to secure the Speaker's position in the 8th Parliament, explaining the rather disappointing and shameful act which has generated lots of public condemnation. Mr. Ahinkra said he did it for the grassroots of his party, who depend on them to survive. According to him, it was a sacrifice his leadership failed to take advantage of. Let me share some excerpts of that statement with you. And it reads, "My colleagues on the majority side couldn't help take advantage of my sacrifices to force a rerun, and we had to settle for an opposition speaker. I must say I am heartbroken and dejected. We've not seen the end of this yet. With this success, they will tell us what they want and what they don't in Parliament because the whip system has become compromised. This is so sad. I'll die for my party any day. I did it for the grassroots who relied on us in power to survive the president who needs some peace to run the country and the greater NPP party as a whole, because we cannot always allow the NDC to threaten and vilify us. I apologize though to my family and friends, both far and near, who may be affected by my actions. The NPP in me could not be controlled. I apologize, but I tried. Live on JoyNews today. Stay with us. There's a lot more coming up. Thanks for staying with us here on JoyNews today. Now, of course, one of the issues of contention during the election of Alban Sumana Kingsford Bangbing was the status of James Kwakye Quayson, who is, of course, Member of Parliament for Asin North. Now, an injunction was placed on him which prevented him from holding himself as Member of Parliament, which was interpreted as a prevention of a vote by Mr. Quayson during this particular election. It was a matter of debates that held up activities in the House for some 3 hours, but in the end, he was sworn in and he cast his ballot. What are the implications, though? Here's Yao Pong, private legal practitioner.
First question to ask is, before a person is said to have disobeyed orders of the court, you have to ask whether or not the person was aware of the orders of the court. First of all, it may then lead to inquiry as to service of the order on him, or how he may have otherwise, in accordance with law, have received the decision of the court. And when that question is answered in the affirmative, then it will lead us to other questions and answers. But that, for me, is fundamental. But as we understand, service or processes on a member of parliament or a person who has to be in parliament to perform some function or the other of a member of parliament, that may have to be served to him through the clerk and in some circumstances the speaker. So if the clerk can confirm that he was served with a court order from the Cape Coast High Court, and then the next question is, did you bring it to the attention of the person concerned? If that is also confirmed or is answered in the affirmative, the legal consequences to follow if the person against whom the order for injunction was issued nonetheless violated the order of the court and disobeyed the court. First of all, I think that's a small matter, if I may be permitted.
Right.
The case, I understand, was commenced by Mr. Frank Davis as a lawyer for the applicant.
Yes.
And Gary supported him and held his brief on the day the decision was given. I think the credit must also be given to Mr. Frank Davis. That's by the way.
Yeah.
But one of them, the main legal consequence is that the person may be cited for contempt before a court of competent jurisdiction. If there are other high courts in the area, then by practice, the judge who issued that order may not be the one that will hear the contempt application. And with the contempt application, the worst form may be for the person to be in prison for disobeying the orders of the court, to be fined, or to be cautioned, or if it's not proven, then acquitted. These are the general ones that I remember now. If a contempt application is filed in the High Court and is brought to his notice, and he's not able to get the court to set aside that application, and the court rather agrees with the applicant for the contempt,
You're live on JoyNews today. Now, Member of Parliament for Tamale South, Al-Hassan Sohini, says the NDC MPs in Parliament will be demanding a full-scale investigation into the deployment of military personnel into the Chamber of Parliament during the election for the Speaker of the House on Thursday. Heavily armed officers marched into the sit-in after NDC MPs disrupted voting to prevent their colleagues from the NPP from showing their ballot papers after voting. The action has been widely criticized, with some accusing former Defense Minister Dominic Nitiwol of ordering the deployment. Now, speaking on Prime Morning on Joy Prime TV, Al-Hassan Suhuyini said the matter must be looked into.
I think it would be a shame, Daniel, for anybody to attempt to rationalize the decision to bring in strangers, and not just strangers, the army especially, onto the floor of Parliament. We are talking, and we will have an investigation, or will call for an investigation into, the circumstances that led the military being there, and the comparison between Muntaka stopping the process from going on when the rules of the process was not followed, and what Carlos Ahenkra did. It's just like comparing apples with oranges. So the process was ongoing, but the rules were not followed. And so the process had to be stopped for us all to follow the rules. It's different from when the process is over. And your intention is to obfuscate the outcome. It's just to mess everybody in the process up. One is intended to ensure that the process is rectified. The other is to mess the process up so you can take advantage of it. Absolutely. I've had discussions with some of our colleagues, and we think this must not go unpunished. Just like Gifty said, a poor farmer is ever jailed, because he snatched a ballot box. Why should a member of Parliament on live TV be treated differently? And remember, it is the second deputy speaker and some other members of the NPP who defended his position that people who snap ballot boxes should just be shot and killed. Can you imagine if that was to be applied to Carlos Ahenkra at the time that the military even invaded the place?
Now, also speaking on the subject was the Executive Director for the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, Dr. Rashid Draman, who describes the deployment of security personnel into the Chamber of Parliament during the election as an overthrow of the Constitution. That is the latest on that matter. We'll move to other stories now here on JoyNews today. And authorities in some tertiary institutions say they will intensify their enforcement of the COVID-19 protocols as the schools begin to reopen after the long coronavirus break. Speaking during a government and Zoom Lion disinfection of some tertiary institutions in the Greater Accra and Eastern regions, Vice Chancellor of the Koforidua Technical University, Professor David Esuman, stated the school's security personnel will ensure the wearing of face masks as seating arrangements in various classrooms have been changed to allow social distancing. There's more in this report.
All tertiary educational institutions across the country are expected to be disinfected before reopening. Different teams are engaged in the exercise across all of Ghana's regions. Here is Director of Communications and Corporate Affairs of Zoom Lion, Emma Achiabuachi.
The chemical we are using is chlorine-based, and it is approved by science. And it is the same chemical we used the previous year, which brought Ghana to the point where we've been recognized as one of the countries that have managed this pandemic or managed the control of the virus properly. So we are still doing the same thing that we know how to do best. They should do well to ensure that there is social distancing, whichever way they can get to do that. For the private schools, I know that some of them it will be difficult, but they should find ways and means of doing that. Other than that, it will not inure to our benefit. They should do social distancing. So your schools would have been disinfected by the time you come, and be assured that as at the time you come, the place is cleared of any bacteria or virus.
The Ashesi University campus, library, hostel, facilities, administration block, lecture halls and offices were all disinfected. Vice Chancellor of the Koforidua Technical University, Professor David Esuman, stated the school security personnel will ensure the wearing of face masks as seating arrangements. Lecture halls have also been changed to allow social distancing.
For now, we have done the new seating arrangement in the classrooms, taking into cognizance the distancing. And so every lecturer that I go to class will have to ensure that they comply that in their classrooms. They should not allow them to cluster and converse. It is mandatory that each student puts on a nose mask whilst on campus. So sometimes we send the security men around. Sometimes me myself, I go around also to find out whether they are indeed wearing their nose mask. Sometimes these are students, they forget themselves. And we keep them on course. And so we are going to make sure that we strengthen that aspect of it so that we monitor them closely. At Koforidua Technical University, KTU, we have COVID committee headed by the Pro-Vice Chancellor of the university. And we have given them a role. In fact, they have some guidelines as what to do.
The Koforidua Nursing and Midwifery College was also disinfected. Administrator Kwame Yani says the school has reduced the number of students in its classrooms and dormitories.
We've reduced the number of students in rooms. The class sizes are being reduced. Maybe even if we are thinking about dividing the classes. So in case maybe if 100 students in the class, we reduce it so the teachers will go more of instead of the students. The school itself too, based on what happened the other time, we locked the school when the government, so students are not allowed to go out often.
In the Greater Accra region, Valley View and Central universities were amongst some tertiary educational institutions that were disinfected. Offices, lecture halls, administration block, dormitories, and the campus were disinfected. Tema Zone General Manager of Zoom Lion Seth Okran says the essence of the exercise was to make the university safe ahead of the resumption of classes.
I believe beyond the disinfection, there should be the observation of the protocols. We're talking of sanitizers, Veronica buckets with water, and then soap with them so that students can really wash their hands, and then the face masks. Because as for the disinfection, if we say we're going to do disinfection every day, it may be impossible, because it means that every day students must get out of lecture halls and stuff like that. But if these protocols are observed, wash your hands before entry into the lecture halls and other places, I believe we can reduce the virus on the various facilities.
Meanwhile, hundreds of newly admitted University of Ghana students have masked up on campus with their parents over accommodation issues. JoyNews' Kweku Asante joins us live with more. Kweku, we understand that the school is running a modular system anyway. So is it that they don't have the facilities to house the students who will be coming in a reduced number?
Hold, please wait.
Right, Kweku, can you hear me? Kweku Asante, are you there? Right, do I have Kweku Asante?
University of Ghana has more students than it has enough beds and other accommodation to be able to satisfy all of them. And every year, this challenge is coming up. This year around again, the challenges have gone up very much. But there were those who were expecting that because the university is expecting to run a modular system, that is a double track, where over 100 and 400 will come for the first time for 6 weeks, and 200 and 300 will also come in the ensuing 6 weeks. This accommodation challenge would have gone down. But that is not the case. This morning on campus, a number of students converged at the Legon Hall and other halls on campus, demanding that they be keeping beds. There were also those who have been able to apply for a bed and actually have generated a proof of stay and actually gone ahead to pay the fees. But then the next day, they were told that they had lost their beds because the university faced some challenges. Some of them have been speaking to us and to them, this is not good and pleasant things at all. They've messed up at Legon Hall in particular, where 2 L6 and G36 or so have been having some challenges. A number of those beds are uploaded online, mistakenly, and who applied for it and had it. But they are telling them that they cannot come into those rooms to as it were, start their academic journey. And so they've been complaining to the university, expecting answers.
When is the school year expected to start again, and when do authorities expect that these issues will be sorted out?
The school year is expected set to start on Monday, that is for level 100, and then the Wednesday that follows, the 400 will also come to campus. The university did not have answered some of these things. They are saying that they are hoping that they are going to be able to do so before some of these students come on campus. But of course, this number is a bit minimal compared to the number of students who have been able to successfully have the bed, pay their fees, and are preparing to come to school on Monday. But there are about 300 students who are at the CD Conference Center, where the management of Lagos will address them and tell them that this is the challenge that we've had, and we're expecting that we'll fix it going forward.
Well, Santi, thank you very much for those updates from the University of Ghana. When we have those updates, we will bring them to you shortly. The road crashes reduced by 19% in the Ashanti region during the Christmas and New Year festivities. The region recorded 46 accident cases between December 24 and January 1, compared with 65 recorded in the same period in 2019. That period also saw a decline in the number of persons killed from 16 to 5. Ohiming, however, reports the number of people killed in 2020 shot up.
Christmas and New Year festivities are often noted for reckless driving, but the season recorded a decline in accident cases in the Ashanti region. The police motto, Traffic and Transport Department, attributes the decline to increased police visibility on the roads, increased road traffic education, and enforcement of road traffic regulations. Ashanti Regional MTTD Commander, Superintendent Emmanuel Duboahin, is happy at the trend.
The total of cases that were recorded in 2019 for 31st and 1st were 23. This year we recorded 16. Total number of vehicles involved in those crashes last year, 2019, were 39. This year we have 28. Total number of persons killed last year, 31st and 1st, were 6. This year we had 1. And it goes on and on and on and on. And you could see that this period too, we also had very good records compared to last year.
Mr. Adubuahin says the effective monitoring and enforcement of road traffic regulations paid off.
I can say that the public awareness on the statistics has increased comparatively to probably the previous years. So the publicity has been very, very, very influential in this aspect. Then again, whilst you give us the opportunity, we also sensitize, we do education. So the education this year, it was structured in such a way that we even started from the lorry parks, lorry terminals, mosques, even certain fan clubs were also visited, highways, and we had a very good collaboration with our road safety stakeholders too, like the National Road Safety Authority, DVLA, and transport unions. They also did very well. Then we cannot talk about the reduction without the strategic enforcement that were also deployed on the road. In fact, strategically, we looked at the accident-prone areas or the hot spots and deploy men to those areas to make sure that certain things that we have considered them as risk factors will be curtailed, or we will be able to contain them, such as drink driving, speeding. So we deploy these the speed radar gun on the highways. We also deploy the breathalyzers on certain areas where we also deploy, we set up some snap check points. You just come, you meet the police, we talk to you nicely, politely, and then we let you go through the process to find out whether or not you have taken any alcohol.
But despite the success chalked, the region saw 572 persons killed in road crashes throughout 2020. The figure represents a 26% increase of the 455 cases recorded in 2019. From Kumasi, for JoyNews, Ohiming reporting.
You're live on JoyNews today. Now, coming up in business, Bank of Ghana increases amounts of dollars it dispenses to businesses and banks through its Forex Forward Auction program. We'll understand that better when we come back.
And it's time for business with me, Charles Ijip. The Bank of Ghana has increased the amount of dollars it plans to sell to businesses and banks through Forex forward auction programs. George Rafi has the rest in this report.
According to the Bank of Ghana's auction calendar, the regulator was planning to sell some $775 million to bankers, investors and businesses for this year. Now this is about $60 million more than the total amount of dollars sold in 2020. From the calendar, the Bank of Ghana has also increased the amount of dollars it is willing to sell every month for the first quarter of 2021. For some, this can be described as part of efforts to deal with the associated high demand for dollars to finance imports in the first quarter of every year. This often leads to depreciation of the Ghana cedi. The local currency, for instance, last month came under some pressure, inching closer to the 6 Ghana cedi mark. The central bank has maintained that this dollar auction program has helped deal with firms that were trying to secure dollars now for future transactions and also deal with the activities of speculators in the country.
Now, some business associations have welcomed President Akufo-Addo's plans to go heavy on industrialization and value addition in his second term. The president, in his inaugural speech, promised to institute policies to facilitate industrial growth. JoyNews, of course, myself, had been speaking to Chief Executive of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mark Abudu-Abuaji. But the first thought, the Chief Executive of the Association of Ghana Industries said, Chum Akwabwa.
You need to be very competitive. If you are not competitive, others will take your market. Even your local market will be taken away with imports from abroad. So you've got to be competitive. But being competitive means that you must have the factors of production in the most efficient manner. You must produce at a price that is very good. It means that your cost of production must be really low and competitive. Great. If you are borrowing at a very high interest cost, if you are buying electricity at a very high cost, if you are paying labor at a very high cost, then you have a challenge in being competitive. So if you ask me what has been the reason for manufacturing lagging behind, it is because our environment for manufacturing has not been conducive enough.
We are encouraging them to work together, because anything apart from that will be detrimental to Ghana and also to the economy of Ghana. We are hopeful that in the years to come, a lot of the bills, business-related bills, will go there, and they should look at it in the interest of Ghana and not in any partisan interest, because anything that will affect the private sector will also largely affect the economy of Ghana and the people of Ghana. So we are looking forward to a situation where both the NDC and the MPP will work consensuously on issues that come to them. Of course, the budget for 2021 up to 2024 from the president will go to Parliament, and most of the things are issues that affect the private sector in terms of how they are going to manage the economy, how they are going to build a very robust economy, stable exchange rate, lower inflation, the revenues and the expenditures, and also debt related to Ghana's economy. So they should look at it largely in the interest of Ghana, and I hope that if they do that, Ghana will be the winner. We need peace. We need an environment that will help the private sector to thrive. In fact, one of the main reasons why somebody will invest in the economy is to where they have peace and where they have a secured environment. The reason why we have had a lot of FDI, among others, is that people feel that we have a secured environment, we have a peaceful environment, so they feel comfortable investing in the country.
The stock exchange has set a record in the bond and equity markets in terms of volumes traded last year. According to the Accra Burst, the Ghana fixed income market smashed the 100 billion cedi ceiling for traded volumes to end the year at 108.45 billion cedis. Charles Nexin-Yeboah has the rest of the story.
This comes despite the equity market returning about negative 13% in cedi term to investors. Indeed, it clawed back some of its losses during the year to end the year 2020 better. According to the exchange, the equity market recorded its second highest annual volume traded in its 30-year history, despite a challenging year. A record of a little of more than 695 million shares changed hands, spurred by investors' appetite on the back of low price price-to-earnings ratio. The highest monthly trade figures was achieved in December with over 140 million shares valued at 132 million cedis changing hands. This represented an increase of 21% in volume and 30% in value over the previous month's figures. MTN Ghana dominated trading activities, accounting for 78% of volume traded. On the bond market, the Ghana Stock Exchange recorded an all-time highest monthly volume traded of 13.34 billion cedis in December alone.
And that's it by way of business, but join me at 1 p.m. on the marketplace as we discuss the prospects of Ghana's aviation industry plus how to make money on YouTube. Join me at 1 p.m. I'm Charles Aite.
Thanks for staying with us here on JoyNews. Today is time for sport, and we go straight into our first story, where Kumasi Asante Kotoko are heading towards the Court of Arbitration for Sport to contest their elimination from the CAF Champions League in that return fixture against Al Hilal of Sudan. Now, Kumasi Asante Kotoko were to play Al Hilal of Sudan in a return leg, but unfortunately that fixture could not come off due to disagreements over the number of suspected COVID-19 cases in the Kotoko squad.
Nana Yawan then promised to pay the players after the game, but the players rejected it. Kotoko faced an uphill task to progress to the next stage of the competition after losing 1-0 to the Sudanese side.
All right, so that's Kumasi Asante Kotoko's case from the Court of Arbitration for Sport. They are going to the Court of Arbitration for Sport to, get some relief, hopefully, in this case, which has eliminated them from the ongoing CAF Champions League. Well, we'll be doing some more here on Midday Sport, and let's throw our attention on the upcoming match day in the Ghana Premier League. Now, before that, however, let's also take the thoughts of Dr. Prince Pambo, who is talking about the hopeful adherence to COVID-19 protocols.
A decision to ease the restrictions on the number of persons who can be at the stadia would not necessarily be a wrong one. It's all just about timing. So yes, COVID-19 is here to stay with us, and COVID-19 probably it's not going away anytime soon. So yes, we just have to probably learn to live with it. So if government has given the go-ahead that various stadia could admit 25% of capacity, it is up to us, the fans, to also try to be very responsible. I mean, after all, we go to church, we go for other gatherings. So all the necessary COVID-19 protocols which are in place, washing of hands, sanitizing, wearing of face mask, social distancing. I feel all these things we would need to put in place as individuals, and the various clubs and the sports authority and the football association would need to just make sure that these protocols are implemented well. Various stadiums should have good running water, soap to wash hands and all that. I believe once we do all these things, which are all part of the daily practices we are expected to be doing in this pandemic, we should be good to go. We really cannot lock out fans forever. And for me, I think the responsibility boils down to we, the fans, and then how we should be.
Well, so that's Dr. Prince Pambo speaking earlier to Gary L. Smith there on what we should be expecting going further into the season. Let's now, wrap it up here for now, and we'll be back with a special package, a conversation with Emmanuel Ajinombedu, who has earned 78 caps for Ghana and has now retired from international duty. I had a conversation with him earlier, and we'll be bringing you a playback of that interview at 2 p.m. when we bring you a special edition of Sports Today. Meanwhile, our JoyNews Today continuous world news comes up next, and so you'd have to stay with us. My name is Nathaniel Atto, and I have love for this program.
Live on JoyNews today, and let's go to the eastern region now and speak to Maxwell Kudeko because preparations are underway, we understand, for the president's Thanksgiving service after his investiture as president at his hometown in Chebi. Maxwell, tell us more about the arrangements for the service.
Well, Daniel, this Thanksgiving service is being organized by the Achimabuakwa Traditional Council, the Buakwa Local Council of Churches, and the Achimabuakwa Presbytery, or the Achimabuakwa Presbytery, in honor of His Excellency President Akufo-Addo for his election and inauguration yesterday. He was welcomed by a court of residents in the Chebi area and some party members, including former ministers and sitting members of parliament. The youth mostly welcomed the president with placards on with some instruction that reads, "The battle is still the Lord's. You are the best, Mr. President. Welcome home, Mr. President. Ejumaru Akufo-Addo," and what have you. And now it has been a service full of praises and worship. Members who are participating in this service have been dancing throughout the service. The moderator of the Presbyterian General Assembly, Right Reverend Professor Joseph Obriebu-Amante, delivered a sermon, and in the sermon he mentioned that the Ochiman, the forebearers of Achimabuakwa, that is the Nanasa Oforiatta I, committed Ochiman to Christ. So it is imperative on leaders of Ochiman, especially the Ochihene and the president, who is a descendant of Nanasa Oforiatta, to commit to God. The moderator mentioned that he is so pleased that the president, throughout his political career, when he showed up to be president, committed his election to God, thereby teaming his team or referring to his team as the battle is the Lord. We want to believe that the president will commit to God and then ensure that he listens to the words of God in governance. As I speak with you, the moderator mentioned that the Presbyterian Church has mop-up strategies or programs to honor the memory of the Nanasa Oforiatta, because he is one of the traditional leaders who committed his kinsmen to God. And so the Presbyterian Church will soon honor the Nanasa Oforiatta. The president came with the vice president and his wife and other dignitaries in government. The Presbyterian Church, led by the moderator, presented an old Bible to the president as a symbol to commit him and his government to God, so that his last tenure would be very fruitful.
Maxwell, did the president speak?
The president is yet to speak. The president is the last person to speak in this program. After here, they are going to do praises and worship, and then Ochihene will deliver a statement before the president speaks, and then the program will end according to the program itinerary.
Right, thank you very much, Maxwell Kudeko. We'll come back to you when that happens. You're live on JoyNews Today. Stay with us.